Hello, Baylen. Welcome to Life Factors. We appreciate that you're here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Baylen Parada, can you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us who you are, and we're going to get into some of the other things that you really are into.
Yeah, my name is Baylen Parada. I'm 35 years old. I live in New Mexico, in the United States. So, yeah, I'm a recovering addict. I'm a year out of prison after doing a decade. So I'm just, trying to like grow and rebuild and try to make a new way.
Okay. Well, thank you for spending some time with us. We are very interested in your story because one of the background that we're going to get into is your artistic talent. You draw some very real life type images, and you're going to use the I guess the correct terms for that for us. But I'm going to ask you to share. You said you're 1 year out of prison. Do you mind sharing with us what may have led you up to that point to where you are now?
hmm yeah, absolutely. So, uh, what led me to being in prison, I think it started with my addiction. I was addicted, strung out to opiates, heroin specifically, for a long time. Um, since I was about 17, 18 years old. So there was a good 6 years from, the end of school where I started to hang out with the wrong crowd. I was curious. I was wanting to try all these new things. And um, yeah, I just wanted to like do what I wanted to do. It was about me and making myself feel good. So, yeah, so I was struggling with my addiction for several years, in and out of rehab, and trying to get clean for a long time, until when I was 24, living in Portland, Oregon, is when I ended up committing nearly a dozen armed robberies to pay for my drug habit. Um, you know, it was really sad,
So
but
let's talk a little about age 17 because our organization catered to the adolescent youth. And that
mhm,
means you're in high school at this point. And looking back, and someone looking at you during that life stage would say, well, Baylen is a normal looking teenager with friends hanging out, right?
yeah.
What could be some of the signs parents should be looking out
Hmm.
for a teenage youth in your situation at the time to
Mhm.
make sure that they're keeping their eyes out and checking on them for peer pressure and leading into these type of illicit activities?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. Uh, it was difficult, I think, for even myself to spot the signs that something was wrong, because I grew up in a great family, in a great home. Both my parents were teachers, so I was always in school in that environment. I was surrounded by a good community of good people. I was always involved in sports and athletics, and I was always getting good grades in school. Uh, uh, but towards the end of high school, I started feeling a little bit more independent. I think I just started dealing with problems that came up. Problems about like just questions about like self worth. Who am I? What am I going to do with my life? A lot of questions that young adults have. And at that point, I didn't know. I was pretty lost. All I really had was like sports and school, and I didn't know anything outside of that. So I was just really curious, and I think I was a little lost, but I hid it. I hid it and tried to cover it up very well. Um, I think if someone had approached me back then and said, and just ask me, are you doing all right? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Um, is there anything you're going through or struggling with that you need help with? Um, I don't think I ever really had that, and if I did, I didn't take it into consideration. So, um, yeah, I think just being aware.
So, you mentioned the environment, which I appreciate. So provide some context. You said you grew up in a good home, good family, good community, you're a student, involved in sports. So is it
Mhm.
that just the involvement itself and just the surroundings, it did not really, you were not able to feed upon that to say, to build trust where you could talk to parents, teachers, you know, counselors, someone. What is it
Yeah,
then in that setting that would make you feel so isolated from reaching out?
yeah. Um, I just feel like I was like misunderstood. Maybe I felt like I was a little bit different than everyone, because I've always been kind of a quiet kind of guy. I've always been more reserved, more soft spoken,
Mhm.
and so I was just kind of shy to open up and just to talk and just to share what was going on with me. I was kind of afraid of showing people what was really going on inside me because I thought nobody could relate to me.
Yeah.
I thought I'm the only one going through this. Um, so I think if someone maybe would have, uh, I don't know, seen me in the same situation, maybe if they would have helped, I don't know, but um, I think all things happen for a reason. So
Okay. So you,
yeah.
you talk about at 17 and then 16, within 16 years of graduating high school, that's when
Mhm.
things start going wrong. Um, were there some type of peer pressure in terms of your first experience with using opiates and other drugs? Um,
Mhm.
and also in terms of access, because sometimes parents wonder, where are kids getting these things? Or
Yeah.
even myself wonder, where is it? It's not as visible in most communities,
Mhm.
especially say middle class, upper middle class communities, it's not visible at all. So
Mhm.
peer pressure, access, what's happening with you during that 6 year period?
Yeah. Um, yeah. During that period, it, the peer pressure really came in. I feel like in the very beginning when I was first trying pills and opiates. At that time, there was a lot of Oxycontin and Dilaudid. These are just prescription opiates, and they were at the time doctors were just pushing them out. That's just kind of how
Mhm.
it was at the time. So certain friends would get them from their parents, or they would steal them, or I don't even know. They would just friends would show up with a handful and offer them, and me being curious, and me feeling like there's something else out there that I don't I'm not getting. I wanted to try it. I feel like if uh, yeah, there was some peer pressure. I feel like I kind of put the pressure on myself to be accepted. I wanted to feel like, oh, look, I'm doing this too. So, let me come hang out. But it was the addiction, getting hooked on the pills happened so fast.
Mhm.
Within, I'd say, like a couple weeks, or a week maybe. It was just I would it just happened so fast, so that from that point on I was just trying to stay well. I was just trying not to be sick or withdraw.
That's an interesting way to describe it. How fast this addiction can. So it begs a question then, at sometimes when you describe yourself as an addict, but is that a true description um
Mhm.
of yourself, knowing that you're powerless against a drug? So how
Mhm.
is it? I know it sounds like a nice way to describe what is happening to you and say, I'm an addict, and maybe this is one way to come to grips. But it sounds more where the chemicals of that drug is more powerful in itself than where your mind is thinking, well, I am an addict, and so be it. What do you think?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point because I remember even before I tried the pills and the opiates, even before that, I think I was maybe 16, 15, 16 years old. I was beginning to try smoking marijuana now and then. And I remember getting caught one time and being put in a counseling and a rehab
Yeah.
group with a
Mhm.
couple other kids. And I remember being told like, this is a disease, you're powerless to it. And I feel like, that narrative was fed to me, not only in groups, but also in all the hundreds of thousands of hours of
Wow.
NA and AA meetings I had to go to. Um, so so yeah, it wasn't until I got out of prison recently this year where I was diagnosed with opiate dependency disorder.
Mhm.
Um, where they say like the chemicals in your brain are just lacking or misfiring. So there, I feel like the stigma of, you know, saying I'm an addict and I'm powerless to it is kind of it's tough because it's just a fact. Like if I took something right now, I wouldn't I it would be hard to stop. It would hurt.
Wow.
Um, but uh, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot of guilt and kind of shame that's put on addicts or
Yes.
anybody who's had any sort of substance problems.
Mhm.
Um, but but recovery is possible, definitely. Um, People do it differently. Everybody.
So you got through, 17, and then those 6 years, and then you said you started doing some, several harmed robberies.
Mhm.
Now, this is sounds like, scenes of out of the movie. Do you want to talk about that and
We
kind of
can talk about it.
scare some kids a little to say, don't do this. Um,
Yeah.
because the disease got so extreme that you have to find a way to feed it. Where were you
Yeah.
at this point? Did you move away from home, or you were still at home and
Mhm.
just because college was
Mhm.
not in the prospect at this point, right?
Mhm. Yeah, so during those 6 years between 16 and or between really 18 and 24, I had I was trying to go to school. I was trying to get a degree and just get through get through my education. But it was hard to manage that. Excuse me. And then also manage a full-time job to support my living. And then on top of that, trying to fund my addiction and like hustle around to try and stay well all the time and get high all the time. It was like doing three full-time jobs just around the clock. So I was always tired. I was always exhausted. You know, I felt like it was just an endless cycle I couldn't get out of. Um, and then and then when I moved up to Portland, Oregon, I moved up there to just live with some friends, and I was working. Doing construction, making hardwood floors, and I was trying to get clean. I was trying to like take Suboxone or methadone to try and offset the opiates so I could get clean, and I couldn't do it, and eventually I lost my job. I lost my house because I couldn't pay for my living. So I was homeless, and uh, I was still very very hooked on opiates. And without a job, without any income, it's hard to stay high. You know, it's expensive. So so I started getting really, really sick. I started withdrawing and going through detoxes, and you know, the whole everything, my head, my body, everything was just sick and miserable, and I felt like I wanted to die. Like I was so miserable,
Mhm.
and I couldn't. I didn't see any way out. I needed. I felt like I needed to get better. I needed to get a fix so that I didn't feel like I was dying in excruciating pain. Um, so that's when I started walking into small like stores, convenience, just you know, and I started scaring them, robbing them, so I could get their money and then just go and get high. You know, I never physically hurt anybody, but I did definitely scare some people, and I feel terrible about that. But um, you know, I wish I could help those people now. You know,
Were there
so.
weapons involved, or were you like, kind of faking a gun or
Mhm. Yeah, I was faking a gun. I did have a toy gun that I just painted to make look like a real gun, and I would pull it out of my backpack or my shirt and show somebody, and they would get scared, and you know, I would get away. But the thing is, I wasn't thinking about getting away with the crimes. It was almost like I wanted to get caught. You know, it was almost like I needed a way out of this torment, this hell that I was living in. So I felt like it was almost a cry for help, you know?
it was a cry for help? It's as if you were trying to say, save me, because you're trying
Right.
to save your life. The fact that
Mm,
this compulsion, it's a
mhm.
compulsion way
Yeah.
beyond. Wow. I mean, I appreciate that the way that you're describing it. And you said that I wish we could apologize. And but when we get into the artistic part, that all of that is going to be the apology. But let's
Mm,
talk about when you actually now got caught.
mm.
The cry for
Yeah.
help was heard, I guess, in a sense, right?
Mm,
You think, and you were caught.
mhm.
Share that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember waking up pretty early on the morning of July 3rd, 2012. And, you know, first thing on my mind always was how am I gonna stay well? How am I gonna get high today? And so first thing I call my dealer and I start driving over to go pick up my next dose. And on the way over there, I am uh, barricaded, I guess you could say. I'm blocked in and surrounded by the police. They got a tip to where I was. You know, thank God, because I don't know how many times I could have gotten high again without overdosing, maybe.
Yeah.
So, so I got arrested, and I was booked into county jail in downtown Portland, and I spent about 3 months there. And during those 3 months, I didn't get any sort of opiate withdrawal treatment, medication, nothing at all. It was just cold turkey. I was sitting in a little concrete cell by myself, just throwing up, sweating, just, you know, it was I was really sick for a good 2, 3 weeks before I could even eat or sleep. Um, it was pretty bad. So and then at the same time, I was also being told by my attorney and the DA and everybody that I was looking at mandatory minimum of 90 months for each robbery. Um, in the state of Oregon, there's laws that you know make it so any person to person crime, you do a
Mhm.
mandatory minimum of 90 months, which it's kind of a blanket kind of law. But so after months of trying to work out a little deal, I ended up getting just over 10 years, 130 months in prison. And then I was shipped up, went upstate.
Let's talk, let's talk about that. You said you were locked up in a concrete cell,
Mm.
and you actually, after, it's literally been forced to quit cold turkey. No type of medication administered, no
No.
methadone, no Suboxone. You did not get to see a nurse.
There were nurses, and they would check your blood pressure just to make sure you were alive, basically. Um,
Mm.
uh, yeah, sometimes some of the other inmates would share their sleeping medication, with people. It's just something to get by, maybe. But yeah, you're really just on your own just to get clean, and I feel like that's how I had to do it. Because for those past 6 years where I was addicted, I had tried everything. I felt like I had tried inpatient, outpatient rehabs. I had tried, you know, uh, going to counseling centers. I tried going to meetings, just working with people individually and group everything,
Mhm.
and nothing seemed to be working. So I feel like maybe prison jail was the only way that it could be forced out of me. Yeah.
Were there others in that same setting that were withdrawing, going through the withdrawal detox i-
Mhm.
at the same time, as you said?
Oh yeah, there's always people in and out of county jail, coming off of drugs of all kind, drugs, alcohol. Anytime anybody goes in there, everybody's coming off of cigarettes, alcohol, meth, heroin.
Mhm.
Everybody's coming off of something in jail. So it's a hard place to go through that. You do have other people that you can talk to about it and get share your experience with,
Yeah.
but for the most part you're just on your own to just get through it and get clean. Yeah.
When you say it,
um,
did they provide like pastoral counseling? Did they provide social workers coming in to talk to you
mhm.
or
They
some?
did have like a chapel service on the weekends. You could go out for an hour, go to church. It's like a small little church group. Just
Mhm.
a pastor comes in, speaks to us. um, I think occasionally they did have like an AA or an NA meeting you could go to. So there sometimes, depending on where you are, I guess it depends on what county, what state,
Mhm.
depends on what resources are available. But up in Oregon and where I was at the time, in prison, there were more resources. I feel like in prison you can kind of you realize you're going to be there for a longer time.
Mhm.
So everybody kind of just finds a program, finds a routine to kind of get through your time, stay busy.
Mhm.
So there's always uh, in prison there's lots of church groups, any kind of religion, spirituality. There's uh, NAAA, there's Toastmasters. There's a lot of different public speaking, different groups and things to do. There's not a lot of art. There's not a lot of art classes though. It's hard to come by.
Okay, let's talk. Interestingly, you mentioned church. Were you raised in the church, and was it what denomination were you? What's your belief or sect?
Yeah, yeah. I was raised in Baptist church actually. From a young age, I would go to like after school daycare, or summers or weekends I would go and spend time at the church. And so just being raised in that environment, I was kind of given a foundation of faith and spirituality. I learned the Bible, memorized all the books. I did all the Sunday school things.
Yeah.
And when I think I was 11 or 12 years old, I chose to get baptized. Um, and very shortly after that is when I started to do my own thing and fall into
Mhm.
peer pressure and, get
Yeah.
into trouble. But I had that foundation in my life. I had that kind of surface to stand on. And it definitely came in handy, came in useful to have the knowledge that you can pray, you can get through things. So
And so you did pray. You
yes.
you did
Yeah,
cry out to God and say,
absolutely. I cried out to God almost every day I was in jail. I'd pray almost every night. And the thing is with Christianity, with religion, I'm not the the type to be like stuck on traditions or rules, or the
yeah,
actual like the structure of religion. I've kind of dove more into the relationship with Christ,
yeah.
my personal relationship with Christ, and just being able, just seeing Christ as someone I can just let things out to, talk to, and I can be thankful for, um, so it's always given me that foundation of being thankful and having gratitude for just being alive, and just having that faith that all things work out in his favor for the best.
So the 10 years you received, were they able to calculate or tally all of the past crimes and being able to get the evidence of the case, or you just were more scared and just, what is the word, plea into whatever they offered?
Yeah, that's a good question. I I realized as soon as I was in handcuffs that day when I got arrested, I realized that uh, I was going to be doing a lot of time. I was going to be in jail or prison for a long time because of the actions that I had made, because of my choices.
Mhm.
Um, and I actually admitted, I I confessed to every single one of the robberies that I committed, and I didn't have anyone with me. I did all of them by myself. Nobody talked me into it, you know. And I told the detectives this so they could clear up their case, so they could close the cases that were out in the city, and they could give some people some peace to know that I was caught and I was behind bars, just to let them rest easy.
Mhm.
So I admitted to everything, and I don't know if that really helped my case. It may have knocked a couple months off,
Mhm.
hopefully, but uh, even after confessing, even after admitting I did all those things, and they
Mhm.
still told me, originally I was looking at 200 months. But then, my attorney said, well, let's wait. He said he was going to talk to the attorney or DA or whatever.
Mhm.
So then after a few months, they came back with 130, um, which is 10 years and 10 months. And I felt like that was the best I was going to get. So I signed that deal and decided to get up to prison so I could just start rebuilding my life, doing something different, you know.
That's an interesting take. Wow. That is really an interesting take on it. Usually, this at this point in that area, you'd find,
Mm,
some people try to just weasel their way out of it in some way. You're saying,
yeah.
well, yes, this cry for help. This is your chance to build from
Mhm.
there. And just as you
Yeah.
said, concern about the people in the community. They want peace, they want closure, and
Yeah.
so. All right, so you are a felon, you're in prison,
Mhm.
and you're among the hard knocks of the lives that are in there. You're quiet, you're soft-spoken, you're a Christian boy, and
Mhm.
you talk about the different, there was not much to do in terms of developing your artistic skills. Let's talk about that because that's one of the things that draw us to you in terms of how beautiful your mind is and how
Mm.
beautiful it is displayed on paper. Talk about your
Thank
art.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's funny when I first got to prison and I was first like learning the program and learning how I was gonna get through my time there. Um, uh, I didn't have drawing. I didn't know that yet as like a means to get through time or anything. It wasn't until maybe a year or two into my time after I had gotten into a bunch of trouble. Um, so when I first got to prison, I was dealing with some issues of like trying to feel accepted or included or feel like one of the guys. So I was getting into a lot of fights. I was pretty physically aggressive, just angry, you could say.
Mhm,
um, but I wasn't. I you know it was I don't know. I felt like that's not who I am. I'm not a physically like aggressive or violent person. It was more just a means of survival because in prison, if you back down or you show any kind of weakness, you're just gonna get eaten alive,
mhm,
and that goes for anywhere, in prison. Uh, so I learned to fight my way out of it. Got into a lot of fights, and I spent after you get into a fight, the COs, the correction officers, would come in, spray you with mace and everything, and take you to the hole or segregation. Um, so after you get stripped out, you go into segregation. You're in just a little cell just by yourself, and 23 hours a day, almost 24 actually. You get out for about 5 minutes to take a shower. You get out for maybe 5 minutes once a week just to walk outside a little bit. So in the hole, you have nothing but time. It's just you and your thoughts in there, in that box. You get a little bit of mail, so I could write letters, and I had a bunch of books. Um, the only writing utensil we were allowed was a ballpoint pen. So um, with nothing but time, I started, you know, I was working out a lot, I was reading a lot, and I was like, what else am I going to do? This isn't enough to pass my time. So I started just scribbling with the pen, just started, drawing imaginary worlds I could kind of take myself to.
mhm,
My first drawings were very like detailed, very intricate, and almost OCD, like obsessive with the detail because I so wanted an escape out of that place I was in that segregation. Um, just being blocked off from the world, really. Um, and it was tough to cope in there. It was really loud, and lights are always on. They don't feed you enough. It's pretty bad. And the way I got through that was drawing most of the day. I would sit there with my blue pen and some recycled scratch paper and just start scratching, start doodling, and in the first couple of days of drawing, I was like, wow, I love this. This is
mhm.
fun. This is a good entertaining way to get through this time. And I don't even, time flies when I'm drawing, so it made time go faster. And then also I was seeing myself improve very rapidly because I was doing it so much.
Oh,
And that also inspired me too. Just
mhm,
the incessant, nonstop practice every single day. Um, that kind of gave me a spark, and I realized, look, I want to do this for the rest of my life because it is so healing. I feel peaceful. I feel like I'm growing and giving back. And so my drawings started growing as well.
So
and
you use the word OCD, you said to kind of the mindset, I guess, to transfer on
mm,
paper because I'm thinking
mm,
this is showing in the details. Like, wait a minute, this is miss. You have to keep doing this in these particular details. I know
mm,
you're gonna show me there, but where did you gather that idea from that you believe you have an OCD mindset? Did you hear that word from someone? Or you just interpret
Um,
it that way?
I think I don't think I'm OCD. I don't feel like I have any disorders like that. I
Mhm,
feel like in certain sometimes some things I do, I get very detailed focused, like in drawings.
mhm,
But I wouldn't say to a point where it's obsessive. It's just hyper focused, I would
mhm.
say. Um, but yeah, I would get into the details. I'd feel like I don't know. I just there's something about like looking at a drawing and being able to find something new in it each
Yeah.
time that I just love.
Who did you send them? The ones that you drew at during those time, did you mail them to friends and family, or did you just keep them on your little wall somewhere to look at?
Mhm. Yeah, when I first started with the blue pen and the scratch paper, I would just do that for myself a little bit, and then I started drawing little greeting cards for people, my neighbors in prison. I would give them to whoever was next to me, or if somebody needed a card to send to their friends or family or their daughters or sons, I
Mhm,
would draw a little teddy bear or balloons, just something simple to start out, and then I started drawing flowers, something a little more complicated, and faces, and it just started growing. And I realized, oh, cards are great. These drawing greeting cards are awesome. They can send them out and everything. And then I was like, well, what if I try drawing a portrait? Or what if I try drawing this or that? So
yeah.
so for a lot of time, even up until the very last days I was in there, I would do drawings for people in there, for them, for their friends and families, just for them to keep. Of anything, abstract, or, family members or pets, everything. I never said no to an idea or a drawing. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, could you try drawing this?" I'd always say, "Yes, I'll try."
Yeah.
So that's the best way to learn, I think, is pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits, and I my intention was to save every single piece, every sketch, every finished drawing,
Mhm,
and I would build up a little stack of drawings. And I remember one time the officers came in to do their routine cell search, and they take apart your mattress, search through everything. They're looking for contraband. They're looking for anything escape device, the usual. But my artwork was everywhere. It was on the floor. It was spilled. There was dirt, water. It was just messed up.
mhm,
So I started getting a little stack, and I would mail it home. Build another little stack and mail it home.
mhm.
So I ended up getting a nice little collection of all my artworks.
Interesting. So let me see. Can you share with us? Because I'm telling you, I just floored by the details, just by can you show us at least one of your drawing? Because you're not doing painting, you're drawing freehand.
Yes, right. So in prison, on canteen and commissary, you're allowed to buy food and hygiene and different items, and some of the items on there include art supplies. As long as you're well behaved, as long as you don't have any write-ups or misconduct, then they would allow you to have colored pencils and erasers and sharpeners and
Mm,
lots of paper.
mm,
So I started collecting these things, and at first, I would only draw with pen. And after that, I moved on to pencil. And soon after that, I started drawing in colored pencil. This drawing was done, let me see, I believe in 2017. And this one's all in pencil, just graphite.
amazing, Baylen. And is it that you just conjure this image in your mind of, I mean,
Mhm.
The image
Yeah,
of
I
a
would.
woman.
I
So is it something you see on TV? Is it just
Mhm.
your imagination running wild here, or?
Mhm. Yeah, I think my favorite way to draw would be by flipping through pages of books and magazines and looking through
Mhm.
references, and it could be anything like a National Geographic or a Home and Garden magazine. There were lots of magazines in prison.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I think I found this image of this female at some point, and the imagination just ran wild. I think I wanted to draw something that, in this case, was kind of like symbolic of the power of just change and growth and new beginnings, and then also the power of females and the power of women, because in
Hmm.
my life I know women have been there to support me 100%. My mother, my sister were the very strongest influences in my life. So seeing the strength of women in many different instances and circumstances is inspiring to me. So that's kind of where I got these
So
ideas.
if you could show us again and tell us some of the details there. And
Yeah.
I could easily say, who is that? You said it's flyer from someone in the magazine. If is this person, would that person then recognize themselves in this, or you kind of stray away from the actual image?
Occasionally I'll draw someone who, I'll try and draw their likeness. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
cannot remember who this person is. This was just out of a random magazine, and I just pulled the picture. I might have changed it a little bit. I do that quite a bit, but
This is
so
amazing.
thank you.
You're
I
looking
like to get
at,
the.
so what is it that at the tail end here? I mean, is this a
Mhm.
glass?
Yeah. Let me see this. Yeah, so I decided to put some
And there's birds.
glass, birds, flowers, sticks, leaves, and I put those glass little globes full of maybe some liquid or whatever.
Where are you taking us with this? I mean, the thing is, with me, just layman, walk into an art studio, I see something like that. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm gonna be in awe. But then, if with the expert eye, if an artist there said, "Okay, look at the detail," and they can just go into the creative
Yeah.
aspect and all the other, artistic ideas or point of view. So, share with us
Mhm.
your artistic view of this image that you're showing us.
Okay. Um, yeah, so starting out the composition, I wanted to use the texture of the
Uh-huh.
paper. I'm a fan of the tooth and the texture of the paper and how it grabs the pencil and the graphite.
Yeah.
So so when I'm drawing, I like to get these nice dark and light, contrasts. I like to get the different textures of the shirt and the skin, and try and make it look all a little bit different, in the hair. and
Mhm.
then and then moving forward, I wanted to get this drawing to change and evolve, and to morph into something more complicated and more complex and more beautiful than just the beginning. I wanted it to grow into
Yeah.
this thing that could be open for interpretation.
It is
um,
open for interpretation because you can sit and look at this thing for hours. For
mm,
example, the it looks seductive, kind of, the slantness
mhm,
of the eyes, the
yeah.
way that she held her hands, like, what are you up to? That kind of thing. And
Mhm.
then I like the fashion. How did you come up with
Mm.
I mean, I don't want to think, is it prison stripes? What is it?
Yeah,
But
I
at the
think it
same
could
time,
be.
it looks like a 60s type of material. I don't know.
Mhm. I think it could be any of that. I think I like the striped shirt.
Right.
Um, in this case, the vertical stripes, they create nice contrast with the horizontal of the roots and the sticks coming out this way. So So I feel like it's just a play on the eyes. It's a way to draw the eyes in some more, and everything down to like the bird's wings and their eyes and the
Yeah.
little, little, just little things. But the whole composition I try to get into a sorry about the whole composition I try to get into like a kind of spiral movement. Try to
Yeah.
keep your eye locked
It
into the
is
middle of
locked
the
into,
drawing.
there's
Yeah,
no
just keep
way
it
to look away from it.
cycling in
Mm-hmm.
there. Yeah. Thank
I,
you.
you know, I don't know if I'm giving it enough justice in terms of my admiration of it. I'm simply just in awe of this. There's so much to discuss and look at and just bask in
Thank you.
whatever it is. Do you have another one you can show us? Because my cheeks are burning up here.
Yeah.
It is that good.
I do. Let me pull out a couple of these ones.
And you said this was done in 2017. So you were
Yeah,
nowhere
that one was done.
close of getting out of there.
What was that?
The painting that you just showed us was, you said
Mhm.
you done that in 2017
Yeah.
and you came out a year ago. So my point is you were not even close of getting out, but there you
No.
are with these ideas. It shows even as you said a form of healing in a way,
Mhm.
right? The way that
Yeah.
your mind is
Yeah,
evolving.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a form of healing. It's a form of therapy for me. Drawing is a way of it's a way of escape. It's a way to like when you're working and you're focused on the movement and the actual act of drawing, it
Yeah.
kind of lets your mind go somewhere else. You can think and process what was done earlier, what was said earlier, and you can formulate responses and think about new ideas, and or you can just really get into exactly what you're working on and be in the moment. So it
Yeah.
offers just a lot. There's a lot. um, yeah, I could show you a couple
Yeah,
more
go ahead and
sketches.
show me one more, or more, as much as you want to, because I want to be able to see some of this.
This is a little compilation, I guess, put together. Um,
Oh my
let's see
goodness.
if we can show you this. So all these were drawn in there as well. Um, so these were all sketches just from
Mhm.
my mail, just sitting there.
Yeah.
I would just look at my mail and draw it,
Uh-huh.
or soap in a washcloth, or my MP3 player where I kept all my music, and music was a huge thing for me, so that was a good one. Um, some tattoo designs, someone's glasses,
Mhm.
and then this one was kind of special as well.
Who
This
is
one's a lot
that?
of this
Who
one's
is,
called Mountain.
you call it
It's
the
just
mountain?
yes, I call this one Mountain.
Is this person hiking? Is it a particular,
Yeah,
country, or
yeah. So
what are you trying to tell us here?
this one I loved the textures of the hat and the hair and the fur and the
Mhm.
boots and everything. I love the textures. So for me it was an adventure. It was a mountain for me to climb to get all these textures in the cloth and the fur. And then I put her on top of the mountain sitting there on the rocks.
Yeah.
So
It's like
yeah.
she's saying, I dare you to get me from this,
Yeah,
kind of place.
yeah,
And,
exactly.
Baylen, I could say you're also a fashion designer, because this is just, again, I'm seeing some real fashionista going on in there with the colors and just the boots and and the hat. It's just amazing. Where did you get this idea from for that one?
I don't know, I just see things and collect them in my mind and memory, and then try to take that and put it onto a paper in something that looks pleasing, something that looks beautiful. I'm just trying to add some beauty to the world, try to make the world look a little better. And it was kind of funny being in prison and drawing these kind of things,
Yeah.
because a lot of guys in prison love drawing the skulls and the dark the demons and the tortured kind of souls. And there's a lot of that, and that's very emotional, and that does, it has a lot of meaning to it, and it has its place. But I've always been the type to look to the future and to look optimistically at something. So I think that reflects in my artwork.
Yeah, it's really just this the constant beauty that that kind of, you know, is just comes out of it from what I'm looking at. Have
Mhm.
you ever since you've been out, and I'm sure there's about how many pieces you have so far, like actual pieces. Say for example, somebody knock on your door one day and said, you know what, Baylen? We admire your work. We want to help you put on your own show. Do you have enough pieces already that could just say, okay, let's go, let's do this?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I have multiple series actually. I would work while I was drawing, I would work in a series. So I would like for instance, this one has two or three other drawings that follow it that are
okay,
along the same theme, um, along the same theme of having the female or a figure with the plants and the flowers and regrowth in the spring. Um, I would work in series for just to explore kind of the idea some more, to try and get some more expression out of what I was trying to say. Um, so I have, yeah, I think just a rough estimate, probably close to 30, 40 finished drawings, finished pieces, and then countless hundreds unfinished.
that you're working on. Very
Yeah.
interesting. So over the years, then, um, how do you react when people react so like getting excited about your what they're seeing, what you've done for them? How does it feel? How does it make you feel?
Uh, I it's kind of surreal almost, because I don't know. I kind of it's hard to say because I'm incredibly excited. I'm incredibly happy
Mhm.
that my artwork and my story can inspire somebody or anybody, even one person. And
Right.
that's really what I was going for, making all these drawings. I was just trying to maybe hopefully inspire at least one other person. So if any of my drawings or my story can connect, or if they can, entertain someone,
Mhm.
I'm incredibly happy about it, because all those years all those hours where I was just sitting there drawing, I didn't know what
Mhm.
would come of this. I didn't know if it would pay off, or if anything would ever come of it. And So now to see a lot of people seeing my artwork and
Yeah.
just appreciating it and thanking me for sharing it, like I'm incredibly grateful, you know.
So the work that you've done while you were in prison, did that configure into your release or parole, or did you have to complete the entire sentence that was given to you?
Hmm. In Oregon State, they do offer up to 10-20% good time off of your sentence
Okay.
for good behavior. Um, so yeah, 130 months, I think, ended up, I after getting in trouble a little bit, I lost some of that 10% that I could get, but I ended up getting a few months off. It wasn't a lot, and
Mhm.
that's just from uh, 6, 7, 8 years of trying to stay out of trouble. Um, and it's hard to stay out of trouble in prison. It's hard to not get write-ups and DRs, and to lose your good time, because there's just a lot of politics. There's things going on. Even just little situations can trip you up. Just the way you talk to an officer, you can get a write-up for disrespect or something minor like that. Um, so there was a lot of that. I remember, I remember towards the end of the pandemic, um, we were all mandatory face masks anytime we came out of our cells. I
Mhm.
remember I stepped out of my cell one time with my mask lowered, and I was talking to my neighbor, and down the hall, the officer says, "Excuse me, sir, could you put your mask on?" And I said, "What?" And I walked up to him. I could, he said, "Put your mask on." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I put it on and turn around. And then about 5 minutes later, I'm being handcuffed and taken to the hole,
Oh,
taken back to
wow.
segregation because I had my mask down outside of my cell.
My goodness.
I was technically breaking the rules. So I went to segregation. This was only like less than a year before getting out.
Yeah.
This was just little things like that. But I, you can get up to 10% off your time in Oregon. States are different though. California, you get up
Mhm.
to 50%.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you know, yeah,
But
yeah.
we
It's just
shouldn't share
different anywhere you go.
we shouldn't share that to anyone. They said, well, I guess I may go to California and do this. I'm just kidding.
No, 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 no. Please don't. Please do not, because the thing is, it is extremely hard to keep
Yeah.
your time, to earn that good time, and it's not worth it. It's never worth it.
Did
You
you
know.
get some actually at least knocked off though? And did you have to go through a board for them to assess your level of rehabilitation to say and or you just or what? How did this come to an end for you? Why,
Yeah, so it came to an end in 2022. My my original out date was a little bit later in 2022.
Okay.
I think it was closer to November, December. But because I had so many years of clear conduct, I was able to get out in August. And the way they decide or the way they go about that doesn't really involve you yourself. It's more your counselor and the warden, the
Yeah.
supervisors, administration. They all deal with your time and calculating it, and then they just send you something in the mail saying this is your date. Good
Wow,
job.
that's it.
Yeah, yeah. So then, actually, about what was it? Almost a year before getting out, I was transferred from a maximum medium
Mhm.
facility security. I went down to a minimum security facility, which is a little bit more freedom. You get more yard time. You get more time to walk around, and it's just kind of a way to try and get you back into society slowly.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. So I remember, yeah, I couldn't sleep the day before I got out, or
Oh,
even a
wow.
few days before.
Yeah.
I was really excited. And I remember walking out that morning and with my bag and all my stack of artwork. I had a big old bag. I wanted to bring all my art supplies and all my drawings with me. So
Hmm.
when I walked out, I had my mother, Dorothea, and her husband, Martin. They
Hmm.
both were there waiting for me, and they picked me up. And then we flew from Portland down to New Mexico. I've been here. And I just really I'm incredibly grateful for the two of them and my family. Just my entire support system has been
Yeah.
incredible. Like, I would be, the thing is, when right before I got out, they said I had the choice to either parole and stay in Oregon, or I could move down to New Mexico and live with my family. And
Hmm.
if I had stayed in Oregon, I would have been on the streets. I would have
Oh
been,
my good.
in
Yeah.
a halfway house or homeless shelter,
Hmm.
trying to get back on my feet after getting out of prison. So I'm just thankful I have an incredible support system that I can come and be here and settle and work and get back on my feet.
So with the message is clear then that a supportive um social system, family system, then
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
people who really care is
Yeah.
probably very significant, not
Yeah.
just in a situation like yours, but probably to anyone. So your message to say you're talking to a group of teenagers, high school kids, you know,
Mhm.
they're sitting looking at you and just like they can't wrap their head around your journey. What would you tell them? Because remember, you said, look, if we go back to the beginning, you said, I had all of this, but nobody asked me, how are you doing? Maybe tap on your shoulder and said, this is the way, leave the breadcrumbs. This is how you should live your life, that type of thing. What is your
Mhm.
message to this group of, boys and girls, teenagers, high schoolers, maybe graduating next year?
Mhm. Yeah. I I would say to these kids, I would say be strong. You know, you're a lot stronger than you think you are. Um, but it's also very much okay to ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. If you're having any sort of feelings of sadness or loneliness or anxiety, um, talk about it. Talk to your friend or a family member or anyone you trust. Just get it out and talk about it, because holding on to these issues, these struggles, and not getting them out and expressing them
Mhm.
in words or in writing or in artwork. If you're not getting it out, it's going to sit in you, and it's gonna fester. It's going to grow and get worse. So I would say express it, get it out, and I would say stay on the right track. You know, as curious as you may be about all the things out there, drugs, alcohol, partying, crime, lifestyle, it's they make it look glamorous and fast and flashy
Mhm.
and all this on TV, but it's not. Uh, when you finally do get caught, and everybody does, when you go to prison, you're not going to be happy about it. It's I don't wish it upon anyone in my life. It's one of the most difficult things you could ever imagine trying to get through. So avoid that. You know, just stick to your studies, stick to what you love, pursue your passion. Absolutely, pursue your passion 100%, and don't compromise for it. And have faith that everything that you're going through, no matter how difficult it is, God is working it out for
Mhm.
your good in the end. It may not seem like it now. It may seem hard and impossible. It may seem dark and lonely. Trust me, I've been there, you know. But God has a way of turning things around. If your mind's right, if your intentions are right,
Yeah.
you know, and the intention is love, just to spread love, you know.
Wow. I still have a lot of questions for you. If you don't, I want to go back to something.
Yeah.
You did mention the opiates, and I mean, and I feel bad having to go back to that because we've gone through so many other beautiful parts of you, right? But let's
Mhm.
let's let's talk about that for a bit. I want to clarify something. You mentioned
Sure.
that it wasn't just opiates like the pills, and so it was you end up using heroin. Yes?
Mhm. Yeah.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, from my understanding, this would it be involved using needles, yes?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so what what I've learned and what, just from the news and other research is that this is one of the hardest drug to kick, and it also have a damaging effect on the brain,
Mhm.
the body, the biological system itself. So I'm sure
Mhm.
while you were incarcerated, they give you, is it monthly medical checks or to say everything is okay with you? And you don't have to get into any details about,
Right.
whatever, but what would you say to someone about the biological effects of, you know, heroin, opiates on, the physical. body.
Right. Um, yeah, so I first started using opiates and pills, like I said, about 17 years old.
Yeah.
And at the time, I would just eat them. I would just swallow pills, or maybe I would crush it up and I would snort it in my nose. But when I started doing heroin, you weren't able to eat it. And smoking it wasn't working. I didn't like it. It tasted horrible. So one of my friends introduced me to IV needle use, and I remember he shot me up that first time, and after that, I couldn't stop. It was absolutely addictive, and it was devastating. It took hold of me very, very quickly and strongly. When you inject, it's much more direct to your bloodstream, so you're getting, you know, it's just much more intense. And that's also how I overdosed 3 times.
Mhm.
Just doing a little bit too much, even when I was trying to be careful, I would fall asleep and stop breathing, and the paramedics would come wake me up. And that happened 3 times, and that's how originally I ended up getting caught in the first place. Was I overdosed and woke up and went to the hospital with the EMTs, resuscitating and trying to bring me back using Narcan and everything. And while I was in the hospital, the police would come and handcuff me and then take me to jail. So that
Mhm.
was how I originally got caught and got in
Yeah. Mhm.
trouble. And then so using needles was extremely dangerous, and very harmful to the body physically.
Mhm.
Not only are you like literally puncturing holes into your skin and your veins all the time, you're increasing your chances for infection and getting something worse. I was extremely lucky in my all my time that I never contracted any sort of HIV or Hep C or anything like that. I was
Mhm.
extremely lucky, but most people do get some sort of health problems from it. Uh, when you're in prison, uh, they really only check on you if you ask. Honestly, the health medical services are always so busy and so full, from people always going in there and always needing something or faking injuries or whatever it is they're doing. Uh, so they're always busy and they have their hands full. They don't have time to really come and check on you individually. It's just on you, on you as an individual to get yourself checked out and find out if you're okay and get the tests done. Um, so yeah, I do still go see a doctor all the time. I do see a therapist, counselor. I meet with my doctor at least once a month.
Mhm.
Uh, just to talk, just to work through. I still have blood circulation in my fingers and toes. I'm losing circulation. I feel like overdosing and essentially losing consciousness for a long time killed a lot of brain cells.
Mhm.
It does harm to the body, and going through withdrawals is extremely painful. So yeah, it's not an easy one to get off. It's very difficult.
So you've experienced a lot of realities, right? We know that when we have the life realities, and then you transverse yourself into all these multiple realities because of the drugs. When you went through detox, the withdrawal detox and so on, when did you fully realize that, wait a minute, I'm here, this is me now. I'm
Mhm.
not being influenced by any remnants of the drug even in my system. When did you actually realize you are actually back?
Mhm.
If that was a
That's a good.
conscious thing anyway.
That's a good question. I don't remember like a specific day or a moment when I realized that, but I do recall feeling more more back to myself, more back to my healthy true self. It took
The 17 year, the pre-17-year-old.
yeah, yeah. I'd I'd say I hadn't felt like that in a long time,
Mhm.
felt like my that pre-drug, pre-influence, until maybe 4 or 5 years into being
Wow.
clean.
Yeah.
It's taken a while. I've struggled with depression, anxiety, and uh, just thought like self-doubt and
Mhm.
everything. So I've even noticed my mental health improving from just being clean, from being sober. So so time really does heal, and your cells in your body will regrow, and
Mhm.
they'll come back after some time. But yeah, I'd say it took a few years before I felt
Mhm.
normal again.
How did you okay, let me there's a movie called American History X.
Hmm.
You shared a lot about, you have to get into a lot of fight. Can you relate to any part of that movie? We know the specific message, but is there anything in it? Say, for example, I'm having a group of kids watch it, and then here's your real life story here. Do you remember that movie? Is there anything in it that you can relate to?
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I'd have to rewatch it,
Mhm.
but it's funny. In movies, it's hard to capture what it's really like in prison. In a movie they try to focus on like the story or the character or maybe an event that happened.
Mhm.
Um, but the actual like time being in there, I feel like it's a lot of just finding something to do, finding something to pass your time. There were a lot of fights, there were a lot of riots,
Mhm.
over unfortunately in American prisons, especially out here in Oregon, California. Um, in my experience, it's every prison is segregated racially, so um, it's kind of weird where you're not allowed to associate with anyone outside of your race
That's
because
it.
there's meant to be, yeah, it's meant to be like a power in numbers kind of thing, where if you're any sort of race or color or whatever you identify as, you
Mhm.
want to stick with those people so you have more power. You're not alone and individual and getting picked on and picked down. um, so there's a lot of gangs,
Oh.
there's a lot of tension over contraband, like
Mhm.
tattooing. There's a lot of tattoos and drugs. There's just, and it always causes problems. uh, it causes fights between inmates, it causes fights between the guards and the inmates.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Let's talk a little about policy wise. There was a policy that was created. It's a federal policy. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called ban the ban the box,
Oh, right.
and it's where it is something that is mandatory by any employer to say if there is a candidate in front of you who may have some type of criminal record.
Mhm.
You should not necessarily have it where you're going to ask a person, do they have a criminal record? If anything,
Mhm.
give them the chance to get through the interview stage. And if you feel that they are fit, and after a background check and you find out, it should not prevent them. That reduces discrimination. Do you find it
Mhm.
difficult to find work? And I know maybe we'll have to wrap up soon. We've been here talking a little while, but do you find it difficult to, find work? with the record that you have?
Hmm. Yeah, it's very hard. It's hard to find. Um, I wouldn't say it's hard to find any work. There's always work to be found. There's plenty of money to be made out there. It's easy to find just a regular job like delivering pizzas or construction or something maybe under the table.
Mhm.
There's a lot of work for felons. There's a lot of new businesses popping up that encourage people to hire felons and people trying to get their lives back together. So I fully support that. I fully support, banning the box. I think that's irrelevant. I think whether I think whether or not you've been to prison is irrelevant, um, unless you're still considered a danger. Maybe if sex
Mhm.
crimes or murder, that kind of thing. Um, but but yeah, I agree. I think there needs to be more inclusion and more less discrimination, less stigma behind being a felon.
Yeah.
Because in my time, I've met hundreds of guys who were in there and turning their life around, spent
Mhm.
going to work every day, learning a trade like plumbing, electrician, anything. They're just trying to get better, you
Mhm.
know. So when they get out, for them to have less of a chance
Right.
to get a job or less of a chance to succeed just because their choices in the past.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's unfair because when you get sentenced, when you go to prison, you're receiving your punishment. You're being punished for that time. So
Mhm.
why are we extending that punishment after prison by
Lifetime.
saying, oh, you have less opportunities? It's almost making it so it's impossible, or it's making it extremely hard for anyone. And the sad thing is there's so many people being imprisoned that it's actually, I feel like it's hurting the economy, because all these people getting out are having this stamp on their back saying I'm a felon. They can't get the career or the last really good job that they want,
Mhm.
like up in medical or law or whatever they want to do.
Okay.
So
So can you imagine with the type of talent that you have, teaching a group of high school kids? You will not have
mm,
that chance because for teachers having a criminal background record, I mean, even if you're considering that, that type of
mm,
thing, you're not, is there some type of limitations on your release that say what you cannot do? Do they put limitations on you in that way? We already know about the box, we already know about the lifetime penalty there. But in terms
yeah,
of your release, do they say, just the way they were giving the option, you can stay in Oregon or you can go see your family. It
yeah,
seems as if they're kind of feeding you into a path. Were there other
yeah.
restrictions or things?
Yeah, the only other restriction was just no contact with my victims or the places of business that I went to go do my crimes. I can't go anywhere near those places, which is fine. That's a small area, and I'm okay not going back there.
Mhm.
But if I didn't have this opportunity to come live in another state, I don't
Right.
know if that would have been a problem. And
Mhm.
then it still is very difficult for me as an artist trying to find a career or a lasting job. I can't even really work with kids in schools because I have robbery one and
Right.
robbery two. So it's hard for me to even get into a school and teach kids how to draw or
Right.
show them some inspiration. So there's a lot of limitations. But
Mhm.
the only rules put on me were obviously no contact with the victims, and then also up to 3 years of post prison supervision. So
Mhm.
I go down. At first, I was seeing my parole officer every couple weeks. Um, I would go and check in, and I'd go to classes. I'd go to my counseling classes. I'd go to my meetings, and then I go to my doctor, and then go over to my PO. So they have you doing all these classes and making sure you're just making sure you're on the right track. I guess they they make you jump through a lot of hoops. It's really difficult, I think, for a lot of people getting out because they don't have their driver's license, they don't have a bank account, they don't have maybe a place to live. So starting over from nothing is very hard. And then you add to that saying you can't work here, 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 and here because you're a felon. It makes it even harder.
Yeah.
So,
Baylen, your skin
mhm.
seems to be intact. You seems to still have all your teeth, right? You're not going bald as yet. I think I'm getting somewhere when I'm saying this. You are very talented based on just the natural talent, and you seem approachable. You have very good communication skills. If you tell no one your background story and you're
Yeah.
just walking down the street, they could say, wait a minute, that's a young Paul Newman. That's a that's a young Robert Redford and all that kind of the look.
Thank you.
You mentioned your self-esteem, you mentioned guilt, you mentioned all these things. So even I'm talking about your physical appearance, which, forgive
Mhm.
me that I did that. I just want to point something out. Where
Mhm.
sometimes kids, what someone else observe of them, they don't see
Mhm.
it. They look in the mirror,
Right.
and all they see is negativity. What you experience, what you may be seeing is all the negativity and the shame and the guilt and all these things and the victims, the faith of the victims. But
Mhm.
I'm thinking you've gone beyond that. Would you say that? Because it's not showing, the lines are not showing up on your face. It is not showing. So am I correct in saying that all the goodness is coming out and your perspective is very, very positive and optimistic? Yes? The
Oh
way that,
yeah.
yes. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I feel like I don't feel like there's really any like thing I can't do.
Good.
Um, yeah, I've just gotten a lot of excellent support and encouragement from people all over the world, from my support system, friends and family.
Uh,
So I feel very empowered. I feel very confident and just grateful and blessed. Um, but everybody has issues going on beneath the surface.
yeah.
So I think it's important for me to have someone to talk to, like a therapist, a counselor. But yeah, I'd say now that I have over 11 years clean, I I feel like I've had time to like get all the chemicals and all the negative
Mhm.
uh, stuff out of my system. I feel like I've been kind of renewed. I feel just better about life, you know. And you're right. I've actually got that a lot where I would walk up to somebody and get to know them a little bit, and then later on tell them, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a recovering addict. I just got out of prison." Like
And
all
they're
these
like,
things.
no
They're like,
way.
"What?" No
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some people have it bad and some people have it really, really bad. But then
Mhm.
I really do believe it's a mindset. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah,
The
absolutely. Mindset
mindset
100%.
and the support
Yeah,
system.
just
Yeah.
maintain that optimism, maintain that mindset that just have a good positive perspective,
Mhm.
instead of looking at the glass half empty, look at it half full.
Mhm.
Look at every opportunity or situation as an opportunity to better yourself, no matter what circumstances, no matter your setting, no matter your family, home life. It might be turmoil, it might be tough, but the one thing that we do have control over is our mind.
Yeah.
Even when they take away all our freedom, even if you take away your ability to function, because you still have how you think and how
Yeah.
you react. So what happens to you? So if something happens to you, instead of instead of retaliating and being angry, try to take a moment to think about it and think about, why is this happening? What can I get out of this? Like, just
Mhm.
think about it a little bit and look for a positive outcome, because there usually is, you
Wow. I know
know.
that they said that, well, you shouldn't contact your victims. And earlier on, you said, I wish I could apologize. Are you not even allowed to apologize to anyone either?
Yeah, no contact.
I
I
mean,
probably could
mhm,
I probably could just make a video and put it out there and
yeah.
hope they see it, kind of thing. But yeah, I don't want to like try to impose on their life if they're
Mm,
still feeling some sort of, you know, trauma. Because trauma is a real thing, and triggering that trauma, if it hasn't been dealt with, can be dangerous too.
yeah.
So just being careful. Yeah.
So you're very informed, very aware, very conscious with all of this. So we've talked a lot, Baylen, you've shared a lot, and I do appreciate you sharing your story. It's very, very insightful and very calming
Thank
as well. I mean, the way that, hopefully one day, you write your story too. You're writing
you.
it
Mhm.
in terms of your painting, but writing it in and to go along with the paintings as well. But if there's a
Mhm.
question that you think, well, Sonia, we're about to end and you didn't ask me this, what question would that be?
I don't know. I would say, I don't know. I would just hope that, I think you asked what I would say to the kids. You asked, what message I would give to them. I would extend that message to anyone,
Mhm.
really, that like it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay not to be okay. Um, and then also just having that positive perspective is super important. Um, yeah, I feel like my artwork and sharing my artwork is the most important thing, and I just hope it can inspire and help some people. So
And
thank you.
for those you want to share where they can find your artwork and to buy, because I'm sure you have to make a living somewhat from your talent. So I found you on Instagram. Um, you want to share where if somebody's interested in your work, or even for you to do a drawing, a portrait of them, how they can contact you?
Yeah, they could message me on Instagram, Baylen Parada, or Facebook. I'm on Facebook as well. Baylen Parada, same thing, just my name. Um, and then I have a website also where I just have a portfolio of almost all of my work from the past. A lot of my finished drawings on baylenspeace.com, BAYLENSPEACE.com. And anyone can always email me as well, baylenspeace@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm thinking about maybe getting a TikTok thing going, just to kind of reach some more people.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes.
that sounds like a wonderful idea. Um,
Thank you.
I am impressed, and I've been sharing, some of what I see. See you post there on Instagram, and it's
Thank
very
you.
refreshing to just it draws you in. Especially, I like the ones with the dog that's just looking
Oh
at you. So thank you so much for spending this time. I really do appreciate it. I hear your dog barking in the background, so it's
yeah.
ready for you.
He's
And
ready.
um, I just wish you all the best and
Thank you.
congratulations for, just, your year out. And I know that it's just going to be a very, very wonderful journey from here on, just by listening to you. Thank you
Thank you.
again, Dylan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.